Hey guys, today I'm going to give you a rundown of how I built my garage quail system. So the first thing I want to show you real quick is how I did my feeder. This is just a piece of Schedule 40 PVC pipe. You don't need to have anything that thick and strong. You can get the thinner walled white stuff you can actually just cut with a box cutter or a knife. And it makes it a lot easier to just cut this slit out in it. I just used this because we had it laying around at our yard, just a scrap piece of pipe. And then I just duct taped the ends up to keep the feed in. And it makes it easy to just dump the feed from the front. You don't have to open their pen up and be taking feeders in and out. And then all you have to do is fill it up from here and turn it back to the front. And I got this wire at a metal supply place. And I think it was about 75 bucks. It was on sale for 75, normally like 110 or something like that, for a 20-foot panel by 4 foot wide. And the width worked out perfect because that's about the width that I needed to cover the front of the cage to build the door out of. And I just wanted something heavy duty and something they can fit their heads through these holes where they couldn't fit their whole body through, and something heavy enough that I could just put a screw up here, which is all I've done, put a screw up there so I can open it, and I just lift it back up and set it on that screw. But it's nothing they're going to push open, or even if they wanted to, they couldn't push it open. And then to hang it, I just used some thin, cheap wire that I had laying around and tied it up here to one of these cross sections on the door, and then it's tied up underneath here on the bottom on another one. And that gives you some play to just adjust it as you need to get that level enough to where it lines up with one of these rows and columns. You don't have to use this kind of stuff. I just wanted to do something easy. I didn't really want to do more woodwork. I'd been doing enough woodwork with this whole project. But you can build a door out of wood that, you know, sits inside this framework and then put chicken wire over it. Or you can use hardware cloth, but it gets really jagged edges on it, and you have to get a die grinder to grind it down when you cut that hole in it. So I prefer chicken wire or this stuff. This stuff just made it really easy for me. And then this is all I did for a hinge, is these corner brackets. You put them there to where that cross section above, to where this up here will sit on top of it, and then it just moves up and down. Makes it easy to open. You don't need any kind of special hinge. That's all I used. The next thing I'll show you guys real quick is the drawers. The base of this, the floor, is hardware cloth. I think it's 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch if I remember right. And this is pretty full right now. It really needs to be empty. That'll probably be tomorrow's project. But all this is the base down here is sitting on the top of the shelf. If you want to get an idea of what this looked like before, you can go back and look at my garage quail setup video. I think it's the first video I put out, and that'll give you kind of an idea of what it looked like before, because I've got the 3 bottom ones that weren't done at that point, so you can get an idea what it looked like. This was an existing shelving unit when I moved here, and I converted all this into these cages. When building this, is what you build first is the poop trays. You build that first to the dimensions, these, you know, inside to inside dimensions of the shelving, and use just a piece of plywood on the bottom and then a 3-sided frame. So there's this front one on the side piece and this other side piece. I didn't put one on the back. And you just got to get it to fit right. I got it to fit a little too tight. I'm going to have to end up putting handles on each end to make it easier to pull out now, because the moisture from the poop makes the wood, you know, expand and contract, and it made it a lot tighter. So if you do it the way I did it, make sure to give yourself, I'd probably do a 1/2 inch on each side for a total of 1 inch difference, so that you have a little, you know, a little room to work with on each side. So you don't have that really tight squeeze. You can have some room back and forth to move it to get it out. So after you've built that tray and got that in, the next thing you're going to want to do is put this upper beam in. And I put just a thin piece of metal. It's what I use for my straight edge. I'm not sure what the thickness is on it. I just put that in between there to give it a little bit of a gap, so it was somewhat tight. And then I just set the board on top of that and then put the screws in on the ends. I would recommend, like I did on the sides, giving yourself a little bit more space on that to make it not such a tight squeeze when you pull this drawer out. It's not so stinking tight. So that's the next thing you'll want to put in. And see if I can move this here a little bit. I put down here on the end these screws and kind of put them into the frame of the shelving unit. If I were to do it again, I'd get L brackets for all of this. I did some of that down on these lower cages, but I wouldn't be putting screws in at an angle like that. I'd be getting some corner brackets to put in there to get it strapped in right. This is how I did some of these first ones, is just put screws in at an angle. That's the way to not do it. And I should get some angle brackets in there to get that fixed, and probably will in the future. This is the right way to do it, angle brackets and strap brackets. So this is the top side of that frame piece, the front frame piece. You want to make sure to put a level on it before you get it anchored in and in place. And then I put this center beam, the center section in. I wouldn't do that again. Next thing you'll want to do is set this rear base frame board in the back. And you want to set that at an 11-degree angle of slope coming down here to this board, to your front board, to give you the right amount of angle you'll need for these eggs to roll out to the trays. Luckily, I had studs in the back of the wall that I was able to anchor that back frame piece to. If I had to do this again and build the whole thing from scratch, I would make sure that there was plywood on the back, and I had strategically put boards back there to be able to anchor that rear frame piece too. From there, then you're cutting out appropriate length pieces for the sides. See if we can open this up again and kind of give you a better look at it. But those are the side pieces, and they'll just go all the way to match up on the outside. I put the sideboards to the outside of the back frame pieces. And then once you've got those in, you'll have your framework done for the floor. You'll then want to put these frame pieces in, these ones right here, on both sides. Those will be your next things you'll put in. And there's kind of a shot of you right there, kind of what it looks like on this end from the side. What the slope is kind of like. That one's not quite as steep as I'd like it. I think that one was, you know, somewhere around 8 or 9 degrees. Like I said, again, 11 is ideal. 10 would be okay. 12 would be okay also, but that 11 seemed to be the sweet spot for me. You will then want to put in your sidewalls, whether you use plywood like I did on the lower ones, or chicken wire like I did on the upper ones. I just got sick of doing the chicken wire with these top ones and decided I'd use some of the plywood I had. I don't really have a preference. Neither one's really easier than the other to work with to get in there. They're both, you know, the same amount of difficulty. But you'll want to do that next and get your sides in so that they you have your partition in there for the next one that you're building. Next thing you'll want to do is cut out your piece of hardware cloth for the floor and get that nailed down. I used a staple gun. Just not a pneumatic one or anything, just a simple staple gun you can get at Home Depot, a hand-operated one, to get your flooring down. And this is the way to do it in this one without that center section. Some of my other ones I had a center beam in there. It works out better if you don't have that in there and you have one solid piece of hardware cloth spanning the whole thing. And to be safe, make sure you give yourself a good foot when you're cutting it to come out this way to make your egg tray out of. And then you'll just bend around the edges like I did there to keep the eggs from falling out, rolling all the way out to the front and not falling on the ground. You'll then want to put this beam in, is the next one you want to put in. And the way you determine how high that goes up is just taking an egg and making sure that your egg will fit through that gap. But you want it to be just right, to where an egg will fit through and not get stuck, but not overly tall that it makes it hard for the quail to reach up and over there to get into the feeder. It's kind of a delicate process to do it. I had to reset mine a couple times to get it just right. But you kind of got to take the size of your eggs you're getting into account with that before you do that. I mean, you can always readjust it later if need be and move the thing down. Just give yourself a little extra space with your doors to have some extra room there to overhang in case you do have to do that. And just give you an idea so you can see how that's the drawer, is that first one. Next one up is the base beam for the flooring. And then that's the next one up you do on top of that, and that's where you want that gap for the eggs. As you can see, quail are messy eaters. I put the lids to these totes on the floor. Still quite a bit of it goes around the outside. So I take these lids and put them along the bottom to try and catch a lot of the feed so that I can put it back into the garbage cans. So we put them in these metal garbage cans. And then the rest of this mess I'll either sweep up or I let the ducks come in here and go through it and they'll clean up some of the excess. And that's all there is to it, guys. If you want to see how I set up the water automation, go back and look at my quail water automation video, and make sure to leave any comments you have and email me at Jaren, Jaren, at urbanaviary.com if you have any questions or have any specific videos you'd like to see.